In the beginning, panels were laminated with a cold press, and countertops were put together with flammable contact cement. Then came clean air rules, flammability regulations, emission caps, and concerns for worker safety. In response, Wilsonart International developed the WA3000 series of white glues. When WA3000 first came into the laminate market, it enabled fabricators to do things that they had never done before. Things like a white glue line without a press. Since no one had ever used white glue with a glue spreader and a pinch roller, the first lines were put together from odds and ends, like this one at a school furniture manufacturer in Texas. The Black Brothers glue spreader has a nameplate that says it was made in 1942, but the line works well and is efficient. As equipment makers understood the potential of the new processes, production became more focused. Today, panel lines are available from several manufacturers. Regardless of supplier, the lines have components that can accomplish similar tasks. A line can consist of one of each of the following items depending on its purpose and the resources available to the fabricator. Some of those items are in-feed scissor lift, a panel cleaner with panel preheater, and glue spreader. Spreaders can be low-cost two-roll spreaders for low-volume lines like this one from Evans Equipment. They can also be models capable of high volume, such as this 4-roll Black Brothers glue spreader. The next component is an index table. They can be either manual or power-driven. The next component is the method of providing pressure. This can either be a pinch roller or a heated continuous oven. The last item is an outfeed scissor lift where finished panels are collected for further use. Now that we've talked about the components of a panel line, let's look at some lines in the field and at the equipment manufacturer's factory that will soon be in the field making panels. Here we see a line set up to take advantage of this process to laminate the new SSV solid surfacing to a substrate with a backer sheet using the new flow-through process. Here we see a line with an in-feed scissor lift, 4-roll Black Brothers glue spreader, an Evans Equipment 4253 manual index table, an Evans 0256 pinch roller, followed by an outfeed scissor lift. The continuous panel process laminates one panel at a time rather than a stack with a cold press. Prior to feeding the panel, the backer sheet is placed into the index table. The first step is to feed a core into the glue spreader from the scissor lift. As the core exits the glue spreader, it enters the index table. The core rolls on beveled rollers. Notice how only the corner of the core is in contact with the table rollers. With a manual table, after the core exits the spreader, the index operator moves it forward. In this line, the variable speed glue spreader is sped up, and it causes the core to exit and coast a short distance away from the spreader rolls so that the operator can safely place his hands behind the core and move it forward. As the core moves forward on the beveled rollers, it comes to a stop bracket. When it hits the stop, it triggers a release mechanism on one side of the index table. The support arm holding the beveled rollers on one side rotates, changing the angle of the bevel from 45 to 90 degrees, causing the core to drop onto the backer sheet. Because the stops for the backer and core are aligned, the core drops into very close alignment with the backer. Next, the top sheet is placed onto the panel, guided by the stops. When the assembly is complete, it's moved into the pinch roller. Here the WA3000 works its magic. No press is necessary. The WA3000 has so much wet tack that it holds the components in place until they set and cure. Exiting the pinch roller, the panel moves to the outfeed scissor lift. In this process, the panels must be kept flat during the period of initial cure. The outfeed scissor lift helps make this possible. In this example, the top sheet is SSV, but the process works just as well with Wilsonart or any brand of laminate. In the cold continuous process, the initial cure takes about an hour in normal conditions. After that, the panel can move to other processing steps. If you used a cold press, you would have to leave the panels in the press for 20 to 30 minutes and then stage them for around 3 hours before further processing was possible. The advantage of a line like this is that panels of any length can be run one after another without any adjustment to the equipment. The WA3000 adhesive will set within an hour on most days without need of further staging for curing purposes. That makes the line a lot faster than a cold press and a lot more flexible. Widths can be varied too, but that means a simple adjustment to the width on the Evans index table. Evans equipment made the first heated roller press for continuous lamination several years ago, but it didn't catch on in a big way. When WA3000 came into the market, Evans took another look at continuous laminating. The result was the model 4600. Originally, this was a one-zone machine. That is, it has a pinch roller where the panel entered, a heat zone, and another pinch roller where the panel exits. Maximum line speed was 12 feet per minute. The machine shown here is the second generation with 2 heat zones and 3 pinch rollers. The line starts with the in-feed scissor lift. An automated panel pusher can be inserted at this point to maximize the efficiency of the process. And from there, the core goes through a glue spreader. This spreader is a new offering from Evans Equipment. It is for small to moderate volume users. It has 2 spread rolls and 2 scraper bars, which when placed next to the spreader roller, form the troughs that hold the adhesives. The rolls have 16 grooves per inch with no crosshatch groove. By removing the crosshatch groove, the spread pattern of adhesive tends to decrease telegraphing in thin, dark, or high-gloss laminate. Here, the back laminate sheet of the panel is placed onto the table. From the spreader, the core moves into the 4253 manual index table and dropped onto the back sheet. This is accomplished by aligning the back sheet and core by the use of a fence and stops that trigger the index table to drop the core onto the backer. From there, the top sheet is placed onto the assembly and aligned with stops, and the panel is moved into the heat tunnel. As the panel moves through the heat tunnel, it is compressed into a pinch roller, heated and pinched again. Heated, then pinched one more time. When it exits the tunnel, it is ready to move on to further processing or to be immediately delivered to a customer for their use. No further staging is necessary. Of interest here, the helix-only pattern on a glue spreader can help to minimize telegraphing. More important, the low momentary pressure of the pinch roller and the special qualities of the WA3000 adhesive tend to minimize the telegraphing that can show up with white glue and a cold press. The next step in the Evans equipment line is a complete system built around the 4264 heat tunnel. In this line, the panel moves by way of a Black Brothers panel pusher to move substrate from an in-feed scissor lift into a combination panel cleaner and preheat tunnel. In the panel cleaner, the residue that collects on the top and bottom of a substrate is brushed off and vacuumed into a dust collector. In the final stage of this system, the substrate is heated to around 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit before it is moved on across a feeder table into the glue spreader. Preheating helps to remove the variables in fabricating that can cause problems down the line. The glue spreader in this line is a Black Brothers 4-roller, high-speed and high-volume machine. The spreader rollers are 16 grooves per inch, with a cross groove every 1/2 inch. When high-gloss or dark color laminates are to be run, concerns about telegraphing may require that the cross groove be removed. This setup will apply around 5 to 8 wet mils of adhesive onto the substrate. The coverage can be fine-tuned by moving the doctor roller closer to or away from the spread rollers. Like the 4253 unpowered table, the backer is placed onto the table and aligned by a series of stops. After that, the substrate moves to the 4263 powered index table, pushed by a system of powered rollers on one side of the table. The top sheet is placed onto the assembly, and then the panel moves into the multi-zone heat tunnel. As the panel moves into the tunnel, it is alternately compressed and heated at rates in excess of 30 feet per minute. The long tunnel enables a longer dwell time and a lower exit temperature for the panel. That makes the panel more stable in terms of reduced possibilities of warp. This system can also be used to laminate the flat portion of a post-form top. Contact Evans Equipment or your Wilsonart distributor for further information or assistance.